This video is going to show you how to search for bills introduced in previous years. It can be helpful to know what bills have been introduced on your topic, what they aim to do, and what happened to them in the legislative process. We will start from the Rhode Island General Assembly's website, which is rilegislature.gov. From here, we will click Legislation in the top menu bar. We will start with this top box that says 2023 Legislative Session Information and click Bill Status/History. Here is where you can select which session year you're interested in searching. So next to session year, we have a drop down. And let's say we're interested in bills introduced in 2021. So click 2021. And let's say our topic is the environment. So click next to category and scroll down to environment. Click enter. And let's look at Senate Bill number 67. So if you click the 67, that will bring us to the bill text. Let's go back a page. And what I'm interested in today is the bill's timeline, and that's this list of dates and text beneath the bill title. So the first thing you want to do is look at the last action. So each date is an action item on the bill. So this says on June 11th, 2021, this bill was signed by the governor. So we know this became law. So let's look at the timeline as a whole. The bill was introduced on January 19th. In February, it was scheduled for a hearing and/or consideration, which means it got a committee meeting. And in March, the committee recommended that the bill be held for further study. At the end of March, it was scheduled for consideration, which means it got another committee meeting. And the committee recommended passage. It was placed on the Senate calendar, which means it was placed on the list of bills for the whole Senate to vote on. And on April 6th, the Senate read and passed the bill. Next, it was sent to the House and referred to the House Special Legislation Committee. The House Special Legislation Committee met on May 24th and recommended that the bill be passed in concurrence. That means they recommend that the House of Representatives pass the bill as is. It was placed on the House calendar, and on June 8th, the House passed the bill in concurrence. So they passed the bill as is. They then sent it to the governor, or transmitted it to the governor, and the governor signed the bill into law on June 11th. Let's look at Senate Bill 210, Sub A. Now, if we jump to the bottom of the timeline, we know that it became law because it was signed by the governor. But what is this Sub A text? The Sub A means that the committee that it was referred to changed some of the original text of the bill. They proposed a substitute. So let's take a look at the timeline. The bill was introduced in February and referred to the Senate Education Committee. At its first committee hearing, it was recommended that it be held for further study. And then when it was scheduled for consideration again, they proposed a substitute. The committee recommended passage of Sub A. So they recommended their updated version of the bill. The Senate then passed the Sub A version of the bill and sent it to the House. The House referred it to its Education Committee. And the committee recommended passage of Sub A in concurrence. And ultimately, the House passed Sub A in concurrence, transmitted it to the governor, which the governor then signed. Next, let's look at a bill that does not end with signed by the governor. Senate Bill 105, Sub A. It was introduced in January, scheduled for a hearing. The committee recommended that it be held for further study, and then it proposed a substitute when it got another committee hearing. The committee recommended passage of Sub A, and then was placed on the Senate calendar, and the Senate as a whole passed the Sub A version of the bill. It was then referred to the House State Government and Elections Committee, and this right here is the last action on this bill. So that means that that's where the bill stalled out. For this bill to become law, it would have to be reintroduced in a current legislative session and make it through the entire legislative process. There are lots of ways for a bill to stall out or die in the legislative process and not become a law. Oftentimes, a bill is held for further study, like we see in Senate Bill 106. Other times, like we see in Senate Bill 107 Sub A, it went through one half of the process, was referred to a committee, and then didn't get a committee hearing, thusly stopping halfway through the process. It is important to note that a bill can become law without the governor's signature. This means that a bill goes through the entire legislative process, transmitted to the governor, and then the governor doesn't sign it, which means it becomes effective without the governor's signature. And in that case, the last action item says, effective without governor's signature.